What's up guys, it's Peter from the Almost Painted channel, and today I can finally show you a progress that I've made on a massive project that is an ultimate boarding actions gaming board. Which in fact is a whole model of a spaceship. Not only the interior that you see right now, but there will be a whole outer shell. I have already made one video about this project, so I encourage you to watch it. It is linked somewhere below. And just to remind you quickly, I want to build a spaceship that from the outside looks kinda like Space Marine Battle Barge from Battlefield Gothic, but of course at a much smaller scale. And inside the ship there is a lot of space for boarding actions terrain from Kill Team, and it is completely modular, so there will be like an infinite ways to set it up. So today I want to focus on the main structure of the ship, so all these wooden elements that create the frame. So the model is divided into 4 main sections. So on this side we have a lower deck, in the center there is an upper deck. This empty space in the middle is left for wide stairs that will connect both decks. At the back of the upper deck we have a command bridge, which will be connected with the deck by 2 elevators on each side. And at the back of the ship there is an engine room that will sit behind the engines of the ship. So after this quick introduction, let's have a look how I constructed the frame of the ship. The general concept for the main structure of the ship is very simple. The floor of every deck is made of HDF board. This is already pre-cut for the upper deck. The outer walls are made of quite thick planks, because they need to support all the structure. So they will look something like that. On the inner side of every wall there will be columns, which will be used for holding boarding actions terrain. So something like that. They will be glued to the planks, and I will be able to move this terrain in and out. So this is the general concept. The height of the planks is almost the same as boarding action steering, so it fits perfectly. I started with assembling boarding action walls so that I could check where planks should be placed. I put small profiles that act as columns for walls and marked where they should be glued, and also the position of the whole sections on HDF board. I will glue the columns to the planks first and then screw them with the board. This is how it looks from wider perspective. The side planks are much longer than HDF board because the upper deck will be placed on top of them. In a moment I will attach cross planks to create better support, because I have to consider that there will be some significant weight in this section once the model is finished. So I think about rigidity to avoid problems later in the build. It may look very simple now, but in fact there is a lot of planning to make sure that everything fits as it should. I test fit every piece before placing and measuring in accordance to parts that are already attached. Then I mark the outline with pen and drill holes for screws that hold everything in place. And this is how the frame for the lower level looks like once it's finished. The front half is where the deck itself is, and the second half in the back is just to support everything that will be placed on top of it. And now let's move one level higher. This time I started with a sliding mechanism for engine room at the end of the ship. It's the most basic mechanism, where 2 profiles attached to the smaller board will slide between 2 pairs that will be screwed to the main board. I don't want the upper deck to be too long once it's disassembled, because I have to store somehow this massive model between boarding actions games. That's why this section is detachable. I glued the profiles to the engine room board. They are too thin for screws and their area is big enough to join them securely with PVA glue, Firstly, I apply little pressure so that glue can spread evenly on the whole surface, and then it's time to apply more force. Whoa! I left it to dry during the night under the tool case, and in the morning I noticed that it's a nice banner to present my political views. After that, I moved to the side of bigger board. As usual, I marked center points for holes, then drilled short profiles, and afterwards the board. The last step is just to screw it all together with square profiles on top. I checked if there was enough clearance to slide it, and to my satisfaction it moves as intended with some resistance, but you don't have to force it in place. Once this was done, I placed boarding actions terrain to check where I should place outer walls, the same way I've done on the lower deck. After marking the position of walls, I test fitted the columns and also sketched where I should glue them. I placed them really carefully because they need to have the right spacing for kill team terrain and there is not much space for error. I drilled the holes in the board and after the columns were glued with planks, I screwed them in place. By the way, the side walls are divided into two sections with empty space in the middle because I left it for the hatchways that I will construct in one of the next episodes of the vlog. After attaching the outer walls to the upper deck's board, I placed it on top of the first level's frame and checked whether the spacing of the columns is correct. I use for that boarding action walls joined in a section that is long enough to connect both sides. Now let's jump to the final section, that is command bridge. As always, as I start with sketching, the board will be just a rectangle with cut corners in the front. I just need to take it off screen for a second and then it's magically cut in the right shape. The command center will be placed on top of 4 pillars at the back of the upper level. It will be elevated quite high above the deck with elevator on each side of it. I screwed the pillars from the bottom and then marked where the floor of the bridge should be placed, and this is the final result. In the engine room I did the same thing, 2 thick walls on the sides and 1 thin at the back because there was only this much space. With all the terrain placed in this empty frame, you start to feel the scale of this project, and it's just the first step on a long road to finished model. Okay guys, I think it's time to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed watching the process of making this main structure. In the next video I will show you how I make landing gear, because as you can see right now the model is lying flat on the table and I want it to stand on its own, so this will be the topic of the next video. And I also plan to release many more in the coming weeks and months, because I want to finish this project by the end of this year, so I have to hurry up. And by the way, we are also working on battle reports for our Combat Patrol tournament, Combat Patrol World Cup. We are very sorry that we had such a long break, but you know, it's sometimes very hard to do your hobby, because there are many things in life that interrupt it. So I can just apologize for that, and you can expect a lot of content in the coming weeks. So I think that's it. So stay tuned and see you next time.